this is what we need to do. And so we do believe as a Conn practitioners, we believe in one God Almighty. He's known by many names. Depending on he has a creative name. He has a build. It's known by many names. I won't rattle them off to you because you won't understand. but we know that this God Almighty had helpers, and we call them Akosua, or deities, a spirit thing. Christianity, you might hear them called angels, cherubim, seraphim. But we believe that God Almighty had created helpers to help him with various aspects of the creation, and also with helping us as humans. In a Conn, we don't tend to talk to God Almighty directly. We believe he's too, he's in everything and everywhere. How do you find something that's in everything and everywhere? But we have ways that we can do that, but generally we will relate to God Almighty through his helpers. And so you will see us associating with one or more deities. We have a Holy Trinity, just as other spiritualities do. Our Holy Trinity consists of God Almighty, Yon Kompon Treneapon is the name that one of the names that we go by. And then he has, we have S.C.C, which is the female aspect of God. Or you'll hear people call it Mother Earth, S.C.C, Mother Earth. And then we have the Ensamanfo. Those are ancestors. Those are the people who walk the earth before us. We all have personal ancestors. We have community ancestors. I have personal ancestors, my grandparents, my great-grandparents. In the United States, we have community ancestors, George Washington, Abraham Lincoln. And so honoring our ancestors is it's paramount in our Conn, because we know that I am the sum total of all those who came before me. The only reason they existed is me, at this point in time. All the ancestors who existed before me resulted in me. And so we honor them. We do that in a number of different ways. We have celebrations, we have ceremonies. Once every 40 days or so, we have a ceremony called I'm trying to think of the English name, and there isn't one. But it's a ceremony where we let our ancestors know, essentially, that we are still doing what they asked us to do, that we're still following the path that they laid for us. We have a lot of our festivals or our ceremonies are related to seasons. We have an Ojira, which is what we use as the New Year's celebration. It's related to the season of the yam. The yam is a very important root vegetable in Africa. The role of women is, in fact, in Tree, which is the language spoken in Akan, there is no male or female article. There's no him or her. There's only, so you don't necessarily hear us calling ourselves priestess or male priest. We're all just priests. We're all just priests. We don't have. So the role of women is, in fact, most of the priests that I know are women.
Our names represent a cultural story or connection to whatever it is our destiny is. So as we go through our levels of initiation, we are reborn into another life. We get a different opportunity to manifest our destinies in the ways in which we promised we would in heaven. So before we come back to earth or reincarnate to earth, we select what it is that we're going to choose to do when we come back into our physical beings. My first name, Ifebayo, means Ifa, or destiny, brings me joy. Olumide is our God has arrived. Well, it's more or less a sentiment, really. If you are in the Yoruba culture and you are praying for something over and over and over and over and over again, and then you get it, they name it Olumide to show that God has answered their prayers. Now, I think, one of the questions that was put for us to try to ask is how spirit has played out in our lives in helping us along the path to where we are today. Years and years ago, I always had kind of different run-ins with priests ever since I was a child. And they would look at me and they would go, "Oh, we'll get you yet. Oh, look at little priestess over there," as I grew up, from 3 to 6 to 16 to 21 or what have you. And I kept running. And I like to say that your destiny is like a rubber band. It only stretches so far before it pulls you back to where it is that you have to go. And so as I ran deeper and deeper into the arms of priests, until eventually I was living in a house filled with devotees, although I didn't know it until later. And they began to reintroduce me to the path that I'm now on today. So when I began my journey, I began with what's called a roots reading. And it's something that tells the history of the story or of how your people actually came to be in the United States. And it tells you about your ancestral line. Well, I was reborn through my father's ancestral line. And his line came directly from the line of Benin in Africa, well, Ketu. Ketu has now been absorbed into Benin as that part of West Africa. And in that process, it tells the story of how it is that my ancestors were captured. And although they fought a very valiant fight, a lot of them were lost to slavery. And so those that were kept on the other side in Africa, or who remained in Africa, made offerings and prayers so that one day those who were lost would somehow return back to Ifa. So it's taken some 400 plus years for my family line to make it back there. But I am now an Olumide returned. So I think that it's very befitting that my name is also Olumide, which is a representation of a prayer that has been answered. I am an Awo. And in our lines of priesthood, we are initiated to certain plateaus or levels of priesthood. And it being an Awo is the highest level you can be initiated into as a practitioner. There aren't many female Awos. Of the approximately 3 million or so people who openly say they practice the religion, because we are a very secret society in a lot of instances. We have been heavily persecuted and continue to be heavily persecuted whenever we make ourselves sometimes known in conventional society, contemporary conventional society. It's an estimate. So of the 3 million who practice openly, there's probably roughly 30,000 who are men that are Awos or Babalaos, and there are maybe out of that number 300 who are women.